Up, we have a very special presentation for y'all. In the house, we have Jason Luna, an alumni of UTC and the IO program. And he's gained quite the following around here as an influential and interesting presenter. And he's going to be talking to us tonight about the future of hiring. So, Jason?
Thank you.
But you know what's interesting is I've thought about these things. It's sort of like BFO, blinding flashes of the obvious have occurred. And it's really not, to me, it's not that hard to kind of see where some things are going. Let's jump into this. Let's talk about how hiring was in the 20th century. Basically, hiring up until recently was very expensive. Expensive for companies because they're putting money into newspaper ads, which are expensive, and trying to reach people. And so if you want to reach a large area, you're going to have to go into more and more newspapers. It's expensive for the applicants because they're licking stamps and printing out resumes and stuffing envelopes, standing in line, and all of that. Taking time off work. Back in the 20th century, HR had control of the hiring process, or the hiring manager, if that person was not an HR manager, had control of the complete hiring process, and it was heavily based on the face-to-face interview. And those interviews were not structured and not scientific, and IO students would just be aghast at the poor predictive validity of these unstructured face-to-face interviews. But that's the 20th century, and let's be honest, a lot of that goes on today. I would imagine if you go down to some restaurant, let me think of a good one, something local. Merv's Hamburgers comes to mind. You're going to get a very unstructured interview, I would imagine, but some of that goes on even in larger companies. There is a guy named Christensen, Clayton Christensen, who wrote this book, The Innovator's Dilemma. Anybody read this book yet? It's an old one. I don't know when it came out, but he talks about, he coined this term called disruptive technology. And I'll give you, you're going to grasp this very quickly, because I'm going to give you an example that everybody knows about. First, there were LP vinyl records. And then a disruptive technology came along called cassette tapes that just overtook LPs, and the cassettes started selling. Then CDs, compact discs, were disruptive to the cassette tapes. And then MP3s were a disruptive technology to the CDs. So if you're a CD manufacturer, you're working on, are you working on MP3s? No. You're working on how can we get more data on this CD, how can we make this CD cheaper, how can we make this CD better, how can we sell more CDs. It's all about how can we burn labels onto the CD. You're so CD focused that you don't even realize there's some young company, some upstart is coming and boom, about to knock you out of the water with this thing called an MP3. That's what disruption is, disruptive technology. So what will the next thing in music be? Maybe it'll be something like this. No, I've talked to guys, they think the next thing in music is going to be high quality streaming music over the web. So think of a Blu-ray type of bit rate streamed over the web. That's where they say things are going with this incredible audio experience. But who knows, right? We just know there's been a pattern, and there will continue to be a pattern of disruption. The question is, what is HR's disruptive technology? We know that whatever is out there, SAP and Oracle, PeopleSoft, which was bought by Oracle, I guess, Taleo, Workday, all these things are going to be disrupted by the next thing. It's the way it's always been. It's the way it always will be. There's always going to be something disrupted. A lot of people think the next thing is going to be LinkedIn. How many people have a LinkedIn.com account? That's good, I think. It's a good way to get your name out there and connect with some people. But I don't know that it is. It's going to be the next disruptive technology. I'm just not seeing it. Here's an example on the screen of an IO student who says, I'm an IO psychology master's student looking for OD internship, practicum, or job, or anything you will give me in the DC area. I'm desperate, please help me out. Here's the thing that concerns me. is there's no results. I mean, do you know anybody that's gotten a job on LinkedIn? Anybody? It's possible. I'm sure there are a lot of people that have gotten a job using LinkedIn.com. I just don't know any of them. So maybe we're still in the early phases of it. I'm not trying to poo-poo it. I don't know anybody that's used it. So I don't see that as the complete disruptive technology. So I talked about how HR in the 20th century was in control of the entire hiring process. That doesn't have to be the case anymore with the internet, particularly with recruiting. The recruiting function with the web has been taken out of HR to some extent. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say you're in the carpet industry and you're selling carpet and you go to a trade show and you're meeting salespeople there. You can connect to them and connect them through LinkedIn.com and funnel down the client, all of the applicants that you see in the carpet industry, and kind of do your own selection process before HR even knows what you're doing. So you basically find the candidate that you like, who has the most recommendations, who has some kind of track record. You do Google searches and all that, and then you're basically just going to HR and saying, hire this person for me. And HR is sitting there going, well, we weren't involved. Well, that's what the web is doing. The web is disrupting a lot of functions in companies, including HR. Tiger Woods put a demarcation in history with his most recent events in November. Just like 9/11 was a demarcation in airline travel. There was how you traveled, the airline travel before 9/11, and then there was airline travel after 9/11. Tiger Woods has done a similar thing in history, in that before Tiger Woods, you might cheat on your wife and not get caught. After Tiger Woods, you're guaranteed to get caught. There's too much of an electronic trail. There are text messages, emails, you name it. There's just too much evidence to all the communication channels, Facebook, all of that is going to bust you. Ladies, you don't have to worry about your husband's cheating on you anymore. I mean, that has gone away. We live in glass houses now because of the internet. And back in the day, you know, the book 1984 was all about Big Brother is watching you. It's not Big Brother's watching you. It's Big Brother, little sister, Aunt Lisa, the neighbor. Everybody is watching you now. Think about that for a second. Glass houses. So, prediction number 1. Background check companies will go out of business. I believe. Because there eventually will be so much information on the web, you won't have to hire a company to look something up for you. I mean, think about it. It used to be you had a librarian in a fine university like UTC that you go to get information, and now a child in sub-Saharan Africa with an internet connection can get that same information. You don't have to have a librarian in a fancy university. So why do you need a background check company when you can go to a website and look up somebody's history just as well as they can?